In a neighborhood where the rich and famous walk among us, one man, Brock Matthews, a rising NFL star, was adored, respected, a hero to many. But that night, something changed. A single moment, a single word, would transform this footballer from beloved star to notorious criminal. It was a scream. A name. A name that didn't belong. And it shattered a life. A marriage. And an entire community. How did it all unfold? What happened when Brock Matthews, the man who seemed to have it all, lost control in the most horrifying way imaginable? What drove him to this moment? And what was the name that sent him spiraling into violence? A perfect marriage, built on love and trust, shattered by one word, the name of a neighbor. But what led to that moment? Why would a man with everything, wealth, fame, a beautiful wife, resort to such brutality? Was it love? Was it betrayal? Or was there something much deeper at play? Tonight, we uncover the chilling truth behind the tragedy that turned Brock Matthews into a man no one would recognize. Stay with us, as we explore a case that will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, trust, and the darkness that can hide beneath the surface of even the most perfect lives. On the night of February 18, 2025, a crime unfolded that no one could have foreseen, a crime so shocking that it would leave Los Angeles, and the entire sports world, reeling. Brock Matthews, a rising star in the NFL, committed an act of violence so brutal, so incomprehensible, that it sent shockwaves through the city. His wife, Sophie Matthews, was dead. And the reason? A single word. A name. The name of their neighbor, Ethan Cole. Who were these people? Brock Matthews, a man who had it all. Fame, fortune, a family. Sophie Matthews, his wife, beautiful, poised, the picture of the perfect life. From the outside, their marriage seemed flawless, like the dream couple everyone envied. But on that night, everything changed. The crime took place in the late hours of the night, within the confines of their own home, where no one could hear Sophie's screams. What led to this? What would drive Brock Matthews, a man with everything to lose, to murder his wife in cold blood after she screamed another man's name in the most intimate of moments? Was it rage? Jealousy? Or was there something much deeper hiding beneath the surface, something no one could have imagined? Was it the pain of betrayal? A loss of control in a moment of sheer emotional turmoil? What was it that caused a man who seemed to have everything to snap in such a horrifying way? The answers lie in the details, and as we uncover the truth, one thing becomes clear: this tragedy was no accident. It was no simple outburst. The true story is far more chilling than anyone could have guessed. Brock Matthews seemed to have everything anyone could ever want. A rising star in the NFL, adored by millions of fans, surrounded by luxury, fame, and the life that so many could only dream of. He had a beautiful wife, Sophie Matthews, his high school sweetheart, the love of his life. Together, they appeared to be the perfect couple, the golden pair everyone admired. A picture-perfect life, lived out in front of the cameras, in the glow of flashing lights and adoration. But like so many things in the public eye, appearances can be deceiving. Behind the glossy exterior, there were whispers, small cracks in the facade. The pressures of fame, the strain of a marriage under constant scrutiny. Could the pressure be too much for Brock and Sophie to handle? And if so, what was lurking just beneath the surface? Enter Ethan Cole. The name of a neighbor. A man who lived just a few doors down from the Matthews family. A man who, at first glance, seemed entirely ordinary. A neighbor, a friendly face, nothing out of the ordinary. But this was no simple acquaintance. To Brock, Ethan was a neighbor, a fellow man in the neighborhood. The two shared small talk, exchanged pleasantries. But little did anyone know, Ethan and Sophie shared something far more intimate than just a neighborly friendship. Was it a hidden affair? Or was there something far more innocent that could have sparked the violence that would follow? The truth about the nature of their connection would remain unclear for now. But it would not take long for suspicion to settle in. As Brock Matthews lay in bed with his wife that night, a sound, a single word, would ignite a fury inside him unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. It was during the most intimate of moments, during sex, that Sophie Matthews screamed a name, the name of their neighbor, Ethan Cole. A slip of the tongue. A harmless mistake. Or was there something more beneath the surface? Wow. This was a deeper betrayal that would set everything into motion. For Brock, that one moment, one name, was the breaking point. The unthinkable had been unleashed. He had believed in the sanctity of his marriage, the loyalty of his wife, the perfect life they had built together. But this one word during sex shattered it all. A rush of emotions overwhelmed him, jealousy, anger, fear. Was this an affair? Or simply a momentary lapse? Either way, Brock Matthews would not be able to contain the storm that was now raging within him. Driven by an overwhelming jealousy, Brock Matthews snapped. In a moment of pure rage and confusion, he attacked his wife in a violent fit of jealousy. The brutality of his actions, disemboweling her, was unimaginable. His world had shifted in an instant. In just moments, Brock Matthews had gone from the height of his career to a man who would forever be remembered for a crime that no one could comprehend. But what happened next? Was it truly a crime of passion, or did Brock Matthews have a plan in mind? Was this a calculated act or a man who simply lost control in the heat of the moment? What happened after the crime? Was there remorse, or did Brock Matthews intend to take things further? As the investigation began, the mystery only deepened. And the answers, well, they would come at a cost. Now that we've witnessed the shocking aftermath, the question remains, what drove Brock Matthews to commit such an unspeakable act? Was this a crime of pure emotion, born from jealousy, betrayal, and rage? Or was there something deeper, something darker lurking beneath the surface of his relationship with Sophie that none of us could have ever imagined? Was it just a momentary loss of control? Or did Brock have a deeper, hidden resentment? Was Sophie's name slip in the heat of passion a mere coincidence? Or was it the breaking point of something far more complex? What do you think? Was Brock Matthews a man driven by raw, uncontrollable emotion, or does he bear secrets about his relationship with Sophie that we have yet to uncover? What role did Ethan Cole truly play in all of this? Was he merely an innocent neighbor, or was he somehow more deeply involved in this tragic chain of events? We want to hear your thoughts. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Or was there always something darker behind the scenes of this seemingly perfect marriage? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Was Ethan Cole just an innocent bystander, or did he unknowingly play a larger role in setting the stage for this heartbreaking moment? Do you think Brock Matthews is guilty of premeditated murder? Was Ethan Cole involved in the murder, even if unknowingly? These questions remain unanswered, and it's up to you to share your opinions. Click on the poll in the community tab to cast your vote. If you're as captivated by this case as we are, don't forget to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into unsolved mysteries and chilling true crimes. We'll keep bringing you the latest, the most shocking, and the most thought-provoking cases, keeping you on the edge of your seat, wondering what happens next. From the outside, Brock Matthews had it all, a thriving football career, wealth, fame, and a family many could only dream of. But behind closed doors, what began as an idyllic marriage soon turned into something no one could have predicted. As we've seen, one night, one moment shattered it all. But what led up to this shocking crime, and what was truly happening beneath the surface? What secrets had been buried in Brock's life for years? And what part did Ethan Cole play in this unimaginable tragedy? But what was discovered during the investigation will shock you. Stay tuned, as we uncover more about Brock's hidden life. What was he really hiding? And how does Ethan Cole, the quiet neighbor, fit into this chilling equation? Was he truly just a name spoken in the heat of passion, or did his involvement go much deeper? It's a question that we all want answered. Was this truly a crime of passion, or was there something even more calculated going on, something hidden behind Brock's cold demeanor that led him to commit such an unthinkable act? As the investigation unfolded, the more we learned about Brock's past, the more unsettling the pieces began to fit together. Each discovery was like a missing puzzle piece, revealing more about his character, his motivations, and his complex relationship with Sophie. We know Brock's life was far from perfect, despite the picture he and Sophie painted for the world. But what really happened in those final moments before the violence erupted? Was this an outburst of jealousy over a fleeting mistake, or was there something much more deliberate at play? The deeper the detectives dug, the more haunting the discoveries became. We saw Brock's carefully constructed life start to crumble, layer by layer. But where does Ethan Cole fit into this twisted web? Was Ethan Cole simply a pawn in this game of jealousy and betrayal? Or was there something about his relationship with Sophie that made him more of a player than we realize? But we still don't have all the answers. The investigation is far from over, and the truth behind the crime remains elusive. What more could the detectives uncover? And how far would Brock go to protect the secrets he kept hidden for so long? Stay with us, as the pieces come together. The twists are far from over. What will the next discovery reveal about Brock, Sophie, and the mysterious neighbor who may have unknowingly sparked a tragic chain of events? Behind the headlines, there was a woman, Sophie Matthews, whose life was taken too soon. A mother, a wife, and someone whose future was brutally stolen away. It's easy to get caught up in the shocking details of the crime, the headlines, and the speculation. But the truth is, the real story here is not just about Brock Matthews, it's about Sophie, the woman at the center of this tragedy. A woman who, in the blink of an eye, was taken from her family, leaving behind a void that no one could ever fill. We never thought this could happen. She was everything to us. The world will never know the real Sophie. This was not just a crime that shattered Brock Matthews' life. It shattered the lives of everyone who loved Sophie. Her parents. Her friends. Her children. Their world crumbled that night, leaving them to pick up the pieces of a life that was stolen in an act of incomprehensible violence. Psychologists argue that Brock Matthews may have been suffering from extreme jealousy, emotional instability, or even the pressure of his public life. Was he simply overwhelmed by the stress of his career? The constant media attention, the fans, the expectations? Or was there something deeper within him, buried beneath the layers of fame and success, that led him to snap in the most violent way possible? From the outside, Brock Matthews was living the dream. A football star. A household name. Yet behind the scenes, was the weight of the world silently pushing him closer to the edge. But beneath that facade, the cracks were starting to show. Could it have been the jealousy, the fear of losing Sophie to someone else, that triggered the horror? Was his outburst driven by something as simple as a single name spoken during a moment of passion, or was this a man harboring an explosive rage, years in the making? Could Brock have been suffering from mental health issues that were never addressed? Were there signs leading up to that night? The pressure of being a star. The pressure of marriage. The pressure of a perfect life. Could it all have become too much for him to bear? Or was it something deeper, darker, festering beneath the surface, waiting for a moment of weakness to explode? Was Brock's outburst truly a crime of passion? A man overwhelmed by his emotions in a moment of madness? Or did he plan this act, knowingly choosing to take Sophie's life, guided by a much darker force within him, one that, perhaps, no one had ever seen coming? In the end, there are no easy answers. Just an endless sea of what-ifs, unanswered questions, and the emotional wreckage left behind by an act of incomprehensible violence. We may never fully understand what pushed Brock Matthews to the brink. But one thing is clear, the consequences of that night will haunt everyone involved for the rest of their lives. On a night like any other, in a seemingly perfect suburban home in Los Angeles, everything would change in an instant. The life of a rising NFL star, Brock Matthews, would be shattered. But the question remains, was it all just a matter of time, or did the events of that night push him over the edge in a moment of uncontrollable rage? For years, Brock Matthews was the golden boy of professional football. A star athlete with millions of fans who watched him rise to fame, admired him for his strength, his charm, his ability to capture the attention of everyone around him. And alongside him, his wife, Sophie Matthews, stood as his partner in life, beautiful, poised, a woman who seemed to have it all. Their relationship, an image of perfection, played out before the public eye. But the reality that few knew was far from flawless. What could drive a man, seemingly at the peak of his life, to commit the unthinkable? What could shatter a marriage that was adored by so many? It wasn't just a random act of violence, it was calculated. It was deliberate. And it was triggered by a single moment, a single word. It happened during a moment that was supposed to be private. Intimate. But in a flash, everything changed. Sophie Matthews, in the middle of an ordinary night, screamed a name that would alter the course of her life forever. A name that wasn't Brock's. A name that wasn't supposed to be part of their world. Ethan. Ethan Cole. The name spoken in the heat of the moment, as Brock Matthews lay next to his wife in their bed, unaware of what was about to happen. Who was Ethan Cole? Just a neighbor. But for Sophie, the connection ran much deeper, a secret that neither Brock nor anyone else knew about until it was too late. From the outside, Brock and Sophie Matthews appeared to have it all, wealth, fame, the kind of life others could only dream of. But beneath the surface, there were cracks. There were secrets. And those secrets had been festering, just waiting for the right moment to erupt. Who was Ethan Cole, really? Was he just an innocent neighbor? Or was there something far more tangled beneath the surface? What was the true nature of the relationship between him and Sophie? Could Brock have known, deep down, that something wasn't right? Was he prepared for what he would hear that night? Or was it the catalyst that set him on a course from which there would be no return? Once the name was spoken, there was no going back. It wasn't just about betrayal, or jealousy, it was a moment that revealed something far darker, something more complex than anyone could have imagined. It was a breaking point. A line that, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Brock Matthews wasn't just a man driven by rage. No, there was more to the story than that. The crime he committed that night, the brutal act of violence, didn't come from nowhere. It wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was years in the making, built on a foundation of lies, deception, and a man whose life was unraveling at the seams. And in the moments after Sophie's scream, when the world around Brock seemed to collapse, he acted. But did he know what he was doing? Was it an act of passion, fueled by raw emotion? Or was it a carefully calculated response to the deepest betrayal he could have ever imagined? Because the truth is, we don't fully know. What we do know, however, is that the consequences were immediate and irreversible. Sophie Matthews was dead. And Brock, the man who was once the pride of his profession, would now face a life that would never be the same. And what about Ethan Cole? The man whose name was spoken in that final moment. Was he an innocent bystander caught up in something much bigger than he realized? Or did his presence, his proximity to Sophie, play a role in the violence that followed? How could a moment of passion and betrayal escalate into such an unthinkable act? And, most haunting of all, was there any way to stop it from happening? Could Brock have been saved from himself? Could someone have intervened before that night, before the breaking point, and changed the course of everything? Tonight, we're left with more questions than answers. And as we begin to piece together the fragments of this tragic story, one thing becomes clear: nothing is ever as it seems. Behind every smiling photo, behind every perfect moment, there may lie a darkness, a tension just waiting to be unleashed. What did Brock Matthews know? What was Sophie hiding? And how much of it, if anything, could we have seen coming? As we continue to explore the layers of this case, we must ask ourselves, what does it truly mean to live in the public eye? And when the facade shatters, when everything is laid bare, who do we become? Join us next time, as we continue to unravel the mystery that shook a city, a family, and a life that seemed destined for greatness. The answers we seek may change everything we thought we knew.